What is going on, everyone? We are live. Welcome to the SB Fantasy Football Podcast, where, gosh darn it, we try hard. As always, I'm Alan.
I'm RD. What up?
Oh, nothing much, brother. How you doing?
We're getting by.
We're getting by?
We're
Getting by?
Everything's all right. Everything's all right.
It's fine. It's fine.
Everything's
It's fine.
here.
No football going on anywhere.
You know what?
I mean, there is, but
it's like we hit like the peak. What was it, like last week or the week before, right? You had college ball on. There was like, I don't know, they said like 6 like full days of like playoffs or something.
playoffs.
You know, you're going through college, you go through the pros and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, all right, now. But I was like, this is too much. I'm so tied up. I'm tired.
I'm tired,
But
balls.
now I'm like, well, now what? What do we do?
Well, now what?
We got to find that happy medium. But this is the off season,
But we still have things to talk about,
Oh yeah,
right? We're still recapping the season.
It was a hell of a season.
Our first full season as a fantasy football podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, you know what? We just got to keep things going.
Yeah.
We got to stay interacting. We got to scratch that itch. Get ready for next season. But before we get ready for next season, let's finish with everything from this season.
Mm-hmm.
Up next is our all bust team. So last week we had our all fantasy team. We did 3 teams, first, second, and third team. Now it's time for our all bust team. And we just did one. But
I got 2 rosters, one of fantasy players and one of adult actresses. Is that not what we're doing here?
that's not what we're doing here. That's not.
I'm totally
Abort.
Well, starting lineup for that one is she could start at all positions. She's very versatile and
Some would say she's the Kyle Pitts.
no.
No.
Ah,
No.
why? Because he sucks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it. I was like, let's just go ahead and
just do it. So here's how and we didn't really talk about what our criteria was for this, right? But let's go ahead and set it out there and just kind of talk about what our criteria is.
All right.
Lizzie's in the house. What's up, Lizzie?
Hey, Lizzie.
I went to Fantasy Pros and I looked at the average draft position. And so I said, these are the guys that were drafted the highest that sucked, essentially.
Okay. All right.
So Duncan's in the house. What's up, Duncan?
So I'm Duncan.
So that's kind of what I looked at. I looked at some Yahoo rankings for kind of where these guys finished, but I used Fantasy Pros average draft position because they have an average, and theirs is the average of CBS, Sleeper, and RTS Sports or RT Sports.
That's really nice of them
So-
to go through and average balance that all out.
Yeah.
I looked at our draft board
Okay.
because I live in the real world where people draft players. And so we look at the bus. Yeah, we're looking at bus.
Yeah.
I can't keep, I don't know why I'm like giggling right now. I just can't stop giggling.
Because you're thinking about your other all team in the bus.
But yeah, so I looked at our draft board, and which, look, our first round on our draft board is keepers and stuff like that. So I did have to look up some ADPs.
Okay.
And of course, I did go to Fantasy Pros and pull up some ADP information, but it was more like positional and overall, rankings or whatever. So anyhow, and then my guys, I don't have any cutoffs. These guys, if you got hurt and you sucked, or you sucked, I don't care. If you do not perform,
part of that is being a bust, right?
Yes.
Getting hurt
Yes.
and not being available. Because the greatest ability is availability.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you right now. But yeah, so this is a crazy ass ranking, and I got some great honorable mentions.
Okay.
I do have their seasonal points. I had their games played. I got their average round and ADP, and then I also have where they finished.
Okay.
So that's what I'm bringing to
So
the table.
I went QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and kicker. Did you do kickers at all?
Here's what I did.
What did you do?
I appreciate that, like old school over there on
There's old school. What's up, here,
I
bros?
did
What's up?
QB, receiver, RB, tight end, kicker, DST, baby.
Oh, you went.
I
okay.
went
Okay.
T to
I
D,
didn't
not
do
this
any
half
DS because we didn't do DST really for.
I don't care. I've got some good busts.
Right. Okay. All right.
Well,
Well, now I do have on the positions like running back. I do have 2 running backs. I do have 3 wide receivers. I do have 1 tight end.
Let me tell you this. I've got 3 total QBs. I've got my team.
I've got a couple.
But I've got 3 total QBs. I've got 3 total RBs. I've got 6 receivers.
Okay.
3 tight ends, 2 kickers, and 3 defenses.
Okay. All right.
I've got the goods, baby.
Well, tell us about your defenses, because I didn't do defenses.
Okay.
Just go ahead. Let's get that out of the way.
So my starting defense of my all-bust team is no one other than the New Jersey Jets.
Okay.
Total points 101. They obviously played 16 games. They were in our league. They were drafted in the 11th round. That's what the paper said. So technically, it's damn near round 10, right? Finished 26th.
Woo.
This is a mega bust of an incredible proportion. Anyway, the other 2 were really close. Cleveland.
Yeah.
102 points. They missed it by 1 point, being the worst effing defense there is. They were drafted. All these teams were drafted in the 11th round. 11th round. And these are reaches. No one else is drafted until 2 rounds later.
I'm not drafted until whatever the last round is.
Finished 25th.
Okay.
Last but certainly not least, the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh.
104 points. So the difference between the Jets, the worst team, 101, and the third worst, 104, dude. It's like, and they finished 24th. Absolutely horrendous. This is just like telling me, don't ever go early on a defense. Now, there is those exceptions, right? Like the Patriots, like a handful of years ago, right? You drafted early because there was, they were locked in, and they finished higher than some receivers. You know what I mean? Or good receivers. Right. I mean, hell, they're going to finish ahead of some of them, right? So then, yeah, dude. I mean, unless I can I know I can feel it or something, and I want to make a move. Otherwise, back to streaming.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that's what I did this year anyways.
And that's what the Commanders did this year. They had 6 different kickers. We're talking pro football here. They're just streaming kickers.
Yeah.
Dalton's out here says Kincaid is a huge bust. Kincaid was a pretty good.
He's not bust. The biggest bust, but he is on there, taking a look at him. He's you know what? Do I have him on my first or second? You got him on your second list, your honorable mention.
We'll get to the tight ends, but yeah.
Start at the top, baby.
Here's the thing with those defenses, and let's talk about the Jets for example.
Okay.
I think the Jets have a good defense. It's just their offense was so bad this year that the defense spent too much time on the field. But also, if you look at the defense's stats, the first part of the season, and with Robert Saleh versus Robert Saleh not there, the defense got worse.
Oh yeah.
When they made that change. So I think you had a couple, it was very, you had a couple differences in that. The 49ers, another team that good defense, bad offense. And same thing with Cleveland.
They struggled this year.
Cleveland had a really good defense that would show up in games, but they spent so much time on the field because that offense was so bad this year. It really they shot themselves in the foot. And that's kind of what you'll see with a lot of your defenses is if they have a really good offense, it helps that defense out a lot.
Yeah. I wanted to go and just check and see because I know we saw the drop
Jets
off.
was mid though.
So for opening day, they scored 2 points, right? They had 14 points week 2, 16 points week 3, a 6 against Denver in week 4. Back to it, double digits on week 5, but that was it. That was over after that. I mean, they did have 14 against Houston in week 9, but I mean, you had negatives on there, and that's what I think. That's what you're trying to avoid. I think that's when you're going and you're streaming defenses and things like that. You're looking for a team that's not going to put up negative points,
right?
Because that is a killer.
Because then you might as well not even play a defense, right?
And in some leagues, it's actually frowned upon. It's illegal. You got to have a legal lineup or something like that.
Yeah.
And some leagues they'll let you play though. Like they're just like, yeah, man, go ahead. Whatever. I'm going to bench my defense, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So, but that's who I got. Those are my defenses. Duncan, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, the Jets, Cleveland, San Fran, all bad, and again, all bad offenses.
Yep. Kickers. I got.
We're going B to T.
Yeah.
All right. I'm fine.
We're going to work our way up to QB.
Okay.
We're going to give them a reason to stick around.
Yeah.
Stick around.
You don't. People don't stick around for kickers.
I don't think so.
You get the hell out of here. Don't you ever talk like that.
For me, I got one guy on my list. This was your number one kicker drafted, essentially in just about all leagues. He was your average first kicker taken, Justin Tucker. And
I can respect that.
He finished 14th.
Yeah.
So you essentially could have not drafted a kicker.
He wasn't drafted
Picked
first.
up a
I
kicker.
think Bucker was Bucker
average.
or Aubrey. I think he was. I think those two were ahead of him. Aubrey was our first kicker taken out. But yeah.
In ESPN, he was the second kicker. Yahoo, he was the first. CBS, he was the second, and in Sleeper, he was the first.
There's no to me that you just got a bunch of morons drafting kickers. Like, what the hell are they thinking?
Well, that's the first kicker taken.
I know Aubrey should have been number one. Aubrey's first one, and Bucker. Let's be honest. But then
Aubrey was your third kicker taken on average. But I mean, Justin Tucker, he just wasn't that good this year.
Oh, he was terrible.
Like you saw him as a free agent in a lot of leagues because why am I going to have the 14th best kicker?
And he missed some kicks, obviously, and the Ravens were just monsters this year. They weren't relying on 50-yard, 55-yard touchdowns. They were scoring touchdowns. Yeah. Or field goals, excuse me. They were scoring touchdowns. I've got Money McPherson. I put my guy in there. I had to. He's my starter here. Right? He did get injured. Got you 103 points.
On average, the sixth kicker taken.
Yeah, he was actually picked up. So he played 12 games. He was taken in the 12th round. So, a little bit later or whatever. But he finished 29th. 29th.
But that's also, like we talked about, you got to be available to play. And he wasn't.
And obviously my honorable mention is going to be Harrison Bucker. He was taken. He scored 110 points, played only 9 games. He was taken in the 12th round. So all these kickers generally were kind of later. But he finished 28th. So 28th and 29th. 2 premier kickers that are known to, just injuries got them. So those are bust to me. At least Tucker was around all year.
And Duncan said, what about Bass? Tyler Bass, he was your on average, he was the 10th kicker taken, and he finished 11th.
Yeah, that's not
so.
I think I think was it last year when he bust? There was a year that he was just shanking.
Here's the thing: Buffalo just scores a lot of touchdowns. They don't kick a ton of field goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he spent his whole season kicking extra points.
Yeah,
that's it.
He was your 10th kicker, and he finished 11th. So not really a bust per se, but he had his ups and his downs for sure. But where he was taken versus where he finished, I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you're finishing a couple places within where you were taken, you're not a bust. Justin Tucker, first kicker taken, finished 14th. That's a big drop. That's a drop, right?
That's too much.
Yeah. Next, tight ends.
Love them. Big fan of them.
Kyle Pitts.
He's not a bust.
What do you mean he's not a bust?
He's not a bust.
How is he not a bust?
Look it up.
What do you mean look it up? I did look it up.
What round did he go in?
He, on average, Kyle Pitts was the 7th tight end taken.
But what round is the 7th tight end taken?
7th tight end taken.
Where did he finish?
You could have players that went below him, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth. These are guys that you could have gotten over him that were top tight ends. It's not that good.
Where did he finish?
Huh?
Where did he finish?
He finished. Hold on.
So you didn't have that up.
I had it. No.
Pitts. You can bash Kyle Pitts. I don't have a problem with it. But when you're sitting there and you're like, this and that, and blah, 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 but you don't tell me what I'm asking you.
He finished. Hold on, I got to count.
God
this doesn't give me a 1, 2,
anyways,
5, 6, 7, 8. Hold on.
Not sack.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th.
Okay, so he's the 7th guy. He finished. He doubled +1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Cade Otton, not drafted, finished ahead of him.
Yeah, he had a good year.
Mike Gesicki ahead of him.
What do you mean wasn't drafted?
Cade Otton was on average.
Not drafted?
Cade Otton on average was the 23rd tight end taken.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, I guess because I had him on my team in the Dynasty League or whatever, and he was fine. He's good. He's a good dude. My tight end, Mr. Evan Ingram. This dude scored you 89.5 points. He only played 9 games. He was drafted in the 5th round, 5.1, the 5-1 guy.
On average, the 8th tight end taken.
Evan?
Yeah.
And then he finished 33rd. Yeah. That is a freaking bust. That is it broke my heart too because he got hurt. He got hurt warming up one week. He pulled his hamstring warming up, and I go, "This is my season. This sucks." I almost just burned the house down. I was like, "This is it. I'm done. I'm done."
I mean, it doesn't take much for you to think about burning your house down.
I had the box.
You subbed your toe the other day. You're like, "I'm burning it all down." I'm like, Get over it, dude. But here's my thing with.
You still going back to Pitts?
I'm still going back to Pitts because here's the thing with Pitts.
Nobody cares.
He played every freaking week.
He's got a case of the
Evan Ingram. He goes out and he's down. You're like, okay, I know to move on, right?
Yeah.
And you go and you pick up Brenton Strange, and you're just fine.
And you're just,
Kyle Pitts played every week,
and that's with Mac. What's his name behind under center?
Right,
Yeah.
with Mac Jones back there.
Mac Jones.
Right? But with Kyle Pitts, he played every week, and he's like
You should have known to let go. That's when you just got to know. It's like, all right, I got to let go.
And I did. He threw up another goose egg, I said, I'm done.
You got to shove Jack off the corner of the door.
I
fat ass
shoved.
was, hanging on.
I
do have two honorable mentions. One is Dalton Kincaid. The other one is Jake Ferguson. Both these dudes put up 100. Well, Kincaid put up 100 points. Ferguson 104. Both played 13 games, so they didn't do the whole season. Both were drafted in the 8th round on average, 8.2 and 8.8. And then, not on average, but in our draft. And one finished 30th. The other one finished 28th.
Okay.
On these high profile, Kincaid should have a better year. I don't think he scored a touchdown until week 18?
Something like that.
Yeah. So it was a weird year for him. He's usually a target magnet. The issue, I think, with the Bills was just he was spreading the ball around like crazy. You know what I mean? And then Shakir stepped up. Collins stepped up. And obviously James Cook had a hell of a year too, just dump offs and whatnot. Dawson Knox is still around and kind of thought he was going to hang him up. He didn't. But I mean, he's still a youngster. I think he's got plenty of chance to rebound next year. As far as Jake Ferguson, I don't know, man. I was like, I was out on him. I didn't even have him ranked that high in our rankings. We're like, nah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm still going to be out on him next year. I'm not going to. I'm out. But anyways, yeah. So those are my three.
Wide receivers.
I've got
I got two honorable mentions.
Okay.
Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle.
How is Chris Olave an honorable mention? There's no one you have that busted harder than he did. There's nobody. He finished 94th.
I understand that.
And he was drafted in the 3rd round.
Okay, but he didn't play all season.
Well, no,
right? But I
guess because you're going to lean on that because you go, I can move on.
Well, there's certain things, right? Yeah. There are certain cases where being drafted high.
Is Tyreek Hill on your list?
Right, huh?
Is Tyreek Hill on your list?
He is not.
Okay.
He is not on my list.
Okay.
So those are my two honorable mentions.
No one can just put down Tyreek for a week.
No, I mean, he wasn't. But again, both of those guys, I mean, and Jalen Waddle played almost all season, right?
I got Waddle on my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
He hit 13 games. He played 13 games.
14th and 20th wide receivers taken. Maybe Tyreek should have been on my list, but
I didn't put him on mine.
I didn't put him on mine
because, if you had Tyreek, he was the biggest, just stab in the ribs every single week because he did. You know in your head you can't bench Tyreek Hill.
No.
But he's not performing. It's like if his name was anything else other than Tyreek Hill, you would have already benched him.
I mean, he still finished in the top 25.
Yeah,
but not much.
He's
like
round
20.
1, round 2.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny. You said Jalen Waddle, but I put him on my reserve or my honorable mentions because I had two others that were almost identical. They were drafted in the same round, put up the same amount of points relatively, and whatever. They all finished. It's Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, and they were both all these guys were drafted in the 4th round, and then they finished 39th, 46th, and 44th. It's like, dude, it's like they had some good games, but God, it was a white knuckle ride.
Right. For me, my three guys.
Okay, because I haven't done my top 3, but they're coming up.
Okay.
All right,
my three: Marvin Harrison Jr., 9th overall wide receiver taken. I don't even know where he finished, but the amount of guys you could have taken over him, the line starts to the left, right?
So he went 2.9 in our league, 2nd round, 9th pick. He finished 30th.
Yeah,
30th.
Deebo Samuel.
Yeah,
and Brandon Ayuk.
I got Ayuk in here as well.
And you got
4 points.
Deebo was the 10th overall wide receiver taken, and Brandon Ayuk was the 15th overall. Both just
they expected him to go back to back, and have good seasons. And it's just the Niners fell apart this year
completely.
And Ayuk got hurt. Deebo, I don't know what the hell was going on. And Ayuk was holding out too at the beginning of the season. Everybody that held out this year got hurt except for Chase, as far as I know, because he was holding out, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
but it was something else.
But
he had some problems over there.
CD didn't get hurt till later in the season, right? So
I
don't know that that's necessarily because of the holdout, right? Yeah. That was he just got freaking rocked, right? But yeah, those are my three, my all bust team: Marvin Harrison Jr., Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, all three of those guys are. And I didn't really understand the hype on Marvin Harrison going into the season. I wasn't really high on him going into the season. I didn't trust the QB situation with Kyler. And again, being a rookie, right? I have an issue with rating rookies high, because it takes a while for them to catch on and
Well, it depends on what team they
get acclimated, right? I mean, just even like some of your rookie wide receivers that did good this year, Malik Neighbors, non-existent the first like 5 weeks, right?
and then QB problem.
And then caught on, but it didn't matter who the QB was towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Whether it was Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, whoever was back there, he was still catching balls.
That's the same guy, bud.
Same guy.
Same guy.
But yeah, who are your three?
It was I had Ayuk, Harrison, and then I did put Olave up there because, he's being drafted in like the 3rd round and finished 94th. And the weeks he would come back, he'd get hurt immediately. Something would happen. He'd get rocked. He had a couple good weeks. Yeah, and he's a great player, but he took hits, and buddy, every one of them were ugly. I mean, he'd go down in about the first play, the first drive, and he was done for the day.
Right.
Like, well, thanks.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And it sucks, because you don't want to like badmouth a player. You don't want to, we're obviously not sending him messages either. Like, hey, you piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. We're like, oh man, I hope he gets better. Cause I don't,
he's a fun player to watch.
He's fun to watch. He's
right.
dynamic. He's amazing. And if he gets, Derek Carr can throw the ball sometimes. And yeah, he was doing good at the beginning of the season because
they had 2 games.
Yeah, it sucked. It just didn't work out for him. Better luck next year. Maybe wear a Guardian cap.
Where they played they played like Cleveland and Dallas, and they're like, they're winning the Super Bowl. They stopped Cleveland and Dallas. So
they had me sold. I was like, oh man, here we go.
Those wins didn't age well.
No, not even a little bit.
A little bit. Oh man,
not great.
Let's go on to our running backs. I don't have any honorable mentions here. So I'll let you go first with your honorable mentions.
Breece Hall, that's my only honorable mention.
Really?
Yeah, he was drafted usually. He some leagues he was like 101 to 103, and it's just because he scored you 244 points, but he finished 14th. Okay. So if you're considered a number 1 overall pick, and you finish 15th or 14th, that's not great. The other 2 guys I got there were massive bust. but I was like, let me throw Breece Hall in there. I did see some people complaining about him too. And I was like, I was looking at other running. I think I had like 5 or 6 on my computer. And I was like, I can't throw Breece Hall in there. Why not? Because you here's the other thing. You get your first round pick, you pick a stud, and you actually get one that you want. Not like someone that you're like, Jesus, I got to pick this guy because I look like an idiot if I skip over him. And I didn't really. He's got a ton of talent. He's on a crazy ass team. He's got a crazy dude under center. I said it a million times. I said it during the stream. I was like, I'm not picking Breece Hall. I'm not picking Garrett Wilson either. I'm skipping those guys. Like, well, who are you going to take? I don't know. Tell me who's up next, and I'll tell you. Tell me who's after him or 2 spots down. I mean, they were having him going in front of Justin Jefferson this year.
Yeah.
They had Chase and like the going as 3 or 4. I'm like, behind Breece Hall? No. Give me. There was a lot. I probably would have burned myself though if I would have took like Tyreek. It would have burned hard. I would have took this pain a lot more than the other one.
Well, I mean, he definitely had a better season than Tyreek.
Yeah.
He came out of the gates hot, right? Yeah. That's the thing. Like he came out hot. That Jets team kind of came out hot and then just kind of
they
fizzled for sure.
They got too much crap going on over there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think Rodgers gonna be back next year, so they might fix the problem. If they pick up a quarterback that's competent.
You got Aaron Glenn coming in to coach that team. I like Aaron Glenn going there. Yeah. That's everything I've seen is that's a done deal. Aaron Glenn's going to be the head coach there. Got a lot of respect. Defensive coordinator from the Lions. Okay. Got a lot of respect for that guy. A lot of people in the league respect him. He's a former player, a great leader. Should do pretty well there. For sure.
Yeah. We're going to talk about coaches. If you're wondering about that, we will talk about coaches here at the end of this when we're done with our stream.
Okay.
Or when we're done with the bus.
So that takes us to who our busts are. Travis Etienne.
Oh, yeah.
100%. 7th running back taken. And
he was taken in the first round of most leagues. You know what I mean? And he finished 36th.
Yeah.
He played 14. That's crazy. He played 14 games.
This was
he didn't get hurt and you're like, all right, well, screw it, I'm done. No, he played 14 freaking games.
And this is a guy that I caught a lot of flack for at the beginning of the season because I was telling I wasn't buying him this year. I was out on him this year. And I was warning everybody, stay away from him. And I was right.
Jags were just a mess this year. He scored you 130 points. Again, he played all the games. That's what kind of I think hurt you is that you kept coming back for more. You just kept, you're like, I mean, I drafted him first, and people sometimes they can't cut loose that first round pick. They're like, it's my first round guy. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm playing him. The upside's there. What upside? Because you picked him in the first, and everybody else told you he was a first round pick.
Right. Yep. And then the bust.
Bust of the century
of the year for sure. Yeah. CMC. And the thing with this, here's the biggest thing with the CMC. He was battling injuries in the offseason. He had to be battling that Achilles during the offseason. And nobody said anything. They kept it under wraps until week 1. Yeah. 4 days before the game. Yeah, Mason 4 days before the game. Mason found out Friday before the game that he was playing. Yeah, just huge.
Did they ever investigate that a little bit for not disclosing?
I know
there's like rules and things like that. That's the reason I was bringing it up, because it's like, well, they have to disclose certain things, especially with like injuries and things like that. I never heard anything else from it, but they kept it under wraps. The dude only played 4 games.
Well, you don't have to start reporting that until the season starts and you're practicing for the season.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
It happened week 1,
but,
right?
Right. But like, so all during training camp, you don't have to report anything.
Yeah, that's
right.
Fine.
So this was all.
Did he just carry his question designation the whole time?
Yeah, he's questionable.
Yeah, it was just questionable the whole time. But it never went doubtful, and it never went no until, like, I swear to God, an hour before the game.
Yeah.
It was bonkers.
And everybody was scrambling.
Yeah.
Like the amount of panic and freakouts that happened were insane.
I gave the new guy like a 20 Mississippi. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you're not going to pick him up? I just got the alert. I was like, I wasn't going to. I was like, and I sat there and I waited, I swear to God, an hour, and I walked. I remember where I was when I picked up Mason. I was standing right out there. And I was like, no one's going to do it? Okay, we're going to do it. And so I went ahead and picked him up.
But it's also like, you didn't know how long he was going to be out at that point, right? There was nothing out there on it. And
I get a message like that, I'm dropping one of my spare ass receivers or something and going to pick him up. You know what I mean?
I felt good with the team I had, right? I felt good. I felt good.
Oh, shit. Hold on. I'll be the judge of that. Hold on real quick.
I mean,
go ahead.
I finished 5th. There's no shame in 5th place. Loser bracket champion. What? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt CMC is the biggest bust. He's your highest bust for RBs. Just all there's to it.
Here's some players I'd like to consider for replacing for a RB1, right? Which you would have put him in your flex because you had Gibbs and Taylor.
Yeah.
All right, and then you went like 4 receivers. All right, so then you had Marshawn Lloyd.
Okay.
You had Khalil Shakir, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks. I guess you picked him because he was your backup. Is he the backup or is he?
No, because I didn't have Chuba.
Oh, you didn't have Chuba.
Yeah. These were guys that I was.
And Tony Pollard. I wouldn't drop him for it, but
yeah.
Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, or Jonathan Brooks definitely get the call.
Those are the guys that I'm buying in on for the second half of the year. Those were guys that I believed would.
You could have dropped
Brooks do something later in the year.
4 weeks later.
Well,
but you could have had But that's what I'm saying. You're like, oh, I like my team. I wouldn't.
I did.
Like, well, yeah, that's cool.
At the time.
But,
right? Or am I going to drop one of those guys that I kind of believe in that somebody else might pick up for a guy that could just play all week that I wasn't going to play in week 1? I wouldn't have played him.
Yeah,
I'm not benching flex? Gibbs. I'm not benching Taylor.
Flex. I just said flex.
I know because I had other guys that I played in the flex. I had other guys I believed in.
But yeah, CMC was the bust of the year. I passed on him. I had the 101, and I said the whole time I was like, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. And then that Q next to his name the entire offseason leading up, going and all the way to the draft. I go, you know what? No, dude, I'm just going to pick CeeDee Lamb. I was like, I'm going to have 2 stud receivers, and we'll see where it goes. And CeeDee didn't do everything he was supposed to, but he's still okay.
Yeah.
But I think he finished 5th instead of astounding number 1.
Right.
But dude, CMC was I couldn't trust him. I could not trust him this year. I was like, I just can't do it. And yeah, I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm not. If I picked 10 or 102 like the new guy did, and I pick CMC, I'm leaving the draft with a handcuff.
Well,
you could have gotten the last round.
You know what? I also remember you sitting there going at the end of the draft. The new guy killed it, man. I don't know, man.
He had a good draft.
Yeah, as he was the worst team in the league.
Every one of his players got hurt.
Duncan again. He wasn't trash for where we drafted him.
What? He finished fifth.
You know it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he finished like fifth.
He had some bad weeks, but he was still a wide receiver number one.
His bad weeks are like 18 to 20 points.
See, Duncan's just bitter because he had CD and CMC as keepers.
Ah, that's rough there, pal.
But CD still had a good year for you. He had some bad weeks, but he also had some bangers.
Yeah,
he really did.
I'm actually trying to. I'm pulling it up right now because I was like, I know he's in there. He missed the last week. Last week of the season, or
last two,
week
17.
So he got shut down week 17. So, he finished behind Neighbors by like 6 points, behind like Scary Terry by 6 points. So all these other guys, he had 271, and so he's in the same category all the way up to like Brian Thomas Jr. Right, and Brian Thomas Jr. finished fourth. Mm-hmm. That's how close he was, and playing with that offense, it didn't know Dak was going to go down, and just.
But to still produce when Dak goes down too, right?
He had a 40 burger. He had 39 points in week 8 against San Fran, which is good. He had 25 against the Giants. But yeah, he had like 2 busts, I think bust, if you want to call it that. That's when he got like 8 points. Everything else is like 18 points and above. And so you're going to have that out of your stars anyways. I mean, some, but that just it. I know what. Yeah, I'd be bitter too. I'd be pissed because if you're loaded up, you're like, I'm keeping CMC and I got CeeDee Lamb. You're like, do I even need to show up to the draft? Because I could just auto draft this bitch and still be the best team. You know what I mean? I got stud 1 and stud 2 sitting right here. Guns, everything's loaded. I'm ready to go. And then, damn, it's tough. And if you ran into certain buzzsaws throughout the year, that's the other thing too. You ran into Jamar and Burrow. You ran into, there was a couple of, Josh Allen one week where he scored you 70 or 80 effing points. Lamar had great weeks as well. And you were like, did you survive? And Jonathan Taylor had a 3 or 4 touchdown game. Like, did you survive Jonathan Taylor? And it's when a single player puts up 50 points, 60 points, 70 points. And if you had a stack, like with the Burrow Chase stack.
Right.
Most people didn't survive that week.
Yeah. Yep.
And that might have been the week where you didn't have anybody on bye week, and the next week you had somebody on bye week.
Maybe you had Burrow, Chase, and Brown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I had all the Bengals on one team.
Duncan wants to know who's a sleeper for next year at RB. Haven't really researched it much.
No, I haven't researched it at all.
I want to keep an eye on the Jacksonville situation because I feel like that's a team that offensively can rebound next year. I just need to see who the next head coach is.
Yeah.
I felt like because there was a possibility Ben Johnson would have went there. And if Ben Johnson had gone there, I feel like you would have seen a rebound year out of ETN possibly next year with Ben Johnson running that offense. He went to the Bears. I don't see a rebound next year for DeAndre Swift because I've already seen DeAndre Swift in that Ben Johnson offense. Lions are not done next year. Duncan, whatever. No. Anyways, but I don't know who my sleeper would be for next year. I kind of want to see. I got to see free agency. I got to see where players are drafted. We will start working on some of that stuff for some shows going forward. But just right off the top of my head, I don't really have. For me, right, the big thing right now, again, to keep an eye on is that Jacksonville situation. Do we get a good offensive mind in there, a good offensive coordinator that can do something with that team that two seasons ago was awesome, right? Yeah. And Doug Peterson just kind of ran that system into the ground.
I'll say this. For me, Ramondre and Brian Robinson, they finished super low this year, but they have the potential to be in the 20s every single week.
Yeah.
They're getting new staff out there in New England. But yeah, I think Robinson Eckler just needs to get out of the way. You get Eckler out of the way, Robinson's stock goes up, and Eckler just kind of whatever. But he still had a good year as well. But I think Ramondre, even though we're always really high on Ramondre Stevenson, I'm sure everybody's going to be high on him next year. But the dude finished over 116.
I think you might be able to get him pretty late next year. I really do.
Hopefully.
And I like him in a Mike Vrabel offense because he's shown that he'll lean on a running back, right? And Ramondre is definitely that guy that you can lean on. So you might be able to get him at a decent value next year. But I also want to see what New England does. Do they go out there and they get another running back to add to that?
He finished 28th.
Let's see what they do.
He was 116th overall, but 28th in the RB talk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's where I got him. I mean, I'll tell you someone else he busted this year was Madison, or was it Zamir White? One of those two.
Both.
Yeah, both. But, yeah, I mean,
Zamir was the guy that was taken as the heir apparent there. The way he finished last year, finished last year strong, almost like a Chase Brown type finish for this year, right? But not as many games. There was less games that when he finally took over that backfield, so didn't have quite the impact that Chase Brown did, but finished the season really strong, had high expectations going into the season, and definitely disappointed for sure.
I'll tell you someone I'm going to stash in dynasty leagues or anything like that is Ray Davis, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Because once Cook's done, Cook's going to, he'll move on and that'll be that. But, yeah, that's someone I'm stashing for a couple seasons down the road. But I think, with where Ramondre finished this year, what he can do. He's everything, right? He can run the ball, he can pound it, and he can catch. He can catch the ball, and I think they're going to be a better team next year.
Yeah.
So he'll finish. He'll finish probably top 10 or something. You know what I mean?
Duncan said Chase Brown was somehow a free agent pickup for me. He was a free agent pickup for a lot of people because it was Zach Moss's backfield, right? And that's the way the season started. And then when Moss went down, Chase Brown stepped in and showed what he could do. Chase Brown was a player that I invested in last year, his rookie year in my dynasty leagues, and held on to him. And when he finally took over that backfield there, I definitely benefited from that.
And he's always been an explosive player. Like you can tell when they brought him in as a change of pace and whatever, you saw what he can do. And he was there with Mixon still in there, and he would break off a
Mixon's
50-yard
last year,
run,
right.
Whatever. And he can do it. He can get it done. But yeah, his stock is going to be. It's his backfield now. Depending on who else they bring in, but I mean, I would assume it's his. He's already shown you what he can do. He did it all season long.
I think he's going to be a top 5 running back next year, just off the top of my head, in that high-powered offense for sure. He said someone dropped him when he was a starter. Woo. That's crazy.
I mean, there was a couple weeks when he had a kind of all right. So Chase Brown, he had 5 points a week, 1 week, 3, 8, and then broke it open in Carolina in 23, 16, 14, dropped to 7, and then 11. But then that's probably where everybody, I don't know about this. And then, boy, he did it. It
all
took off.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was, I don't think he dipped below 20 again until he got hurt or whatever, week 16. So
we're CMC and Travis Etienne, your bus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought we covered it.
Well, the way you said it sounded like you were agreeing with me, but you never said, that's who I have.
Yeah.
So that takes us to our QB.
I totally forgot. I thought we were already done.
Honorable. I have one honorable mention.
Okay.
And this guy was drafted as on average, he was the second QB taken. Patrick Mahomes.
I got him as an honorable mention.
He was downright
I got 2
unplayable 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah, he just never got above, he had trouble getting above 20 points a week. And that's in, obviously PPR 6-point touchdown leagues and things like that. He scored you 209 points. He played 382 points. I got the other one I'm reading right now. He played all 16 games. So you could never just say, I gotta cut him. I gotta be done with him or whatever. You could never make that distinction. And he finished, you said, I got him finished at 13th. Would you have him finished?
Yeah, I think, 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
You could have gotten Burrow after him, Jane Daniels.
Yep.
These other guys you either could have drafted real late or gotten as free agents, Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. All top 10 QBs
Baker
there.
Was 3
right?
in some leagues.
Baker was very high.
Wasn't drafted. Wasn't even freaking drafted. Think about that, kids.
Not drafted or drafted super late.
Yeah.
Right.
Just think. Just let that settle in.
Those are all guys, and for me, I don't think it was even close for who my bust of the year was. And this was a guy that I told everybody to avoid going into the draft.
Wait, hold on, because I have him as an honorable mention.
Okay, well, let me.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Michael Lopez in the house said, "Don't forget to hit that like button." That's right, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
I told everyone avoid him. I didn't get the hype going into the season on him.
Not Pitts. He has Pitts listed at every position.
It's none other than Kyle Pitts. You're right, Michael. Kyle fucking Pitts. Anthony Richardson. He was on average your 6th quarterback taken.
And he got benched 3 times throughout the season.
I
It's for
didn't.
MVP.
I'm
gonna get him a shirt that says that. I'm gonna have his face on it and it says for MVP across the eyes or something like that.
I'm pretty sure we have. I have the audio of you somewhere telling Kyle Pitts he's not your real dad.
Yeah.
But he just. You said you had him down as an honorable mention. He 100% was the bust of the year for me. But also, like I said, and Michael was there for those early shows. And Duncan, the first of the season, when I'm telling everybody, don't play Anthony Richardson. Don't buy it. Don't buy the hype. He either throws a 70-yard pass or he farts and falls down. And majority of the time, he farted and fell down. You definitely called it on AR. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get it. He hadn't played much football. He didn't play much last season.
What didn't help you was week 1 when he put up like 40 points. But then he fizzled. Yeah. And then he got benched for a couple games. And then he come back, fizzled a couple more times. And then he put up 30 against the Jets, 26 against New England, 23. He looked a little bit better towards the end of the season. But it's like, yeah, no, he was the absolute
He's one of those guys that he needs time. He has the talent. He has the ability.
They were talking about moving on from him already.
Hasn't played football. He hasn't played quarterback that long.
Yeah.
He had 1 season in college. He was a 1-season starter in college.
Was it Florida?
At Florida.
Mm-hmm. Cannon of an arm.
And he's unbelievable talent. Mm-hmm. He just hasn't played the position that much. Yeah. And he just needs time. And he needs to have time to develop. Is he going to get that? I don't know.
Doesn't sound like
we'll
it.
see. But
they're like lunatics out there. I mean, they're benching him and stuff like that, which is fine. They should just roll with Flacco all year. And then they're like, okay, well, I don't even know about his future. I'm like, you don't know about your future with this guy? How about give him some freaking time? How about give him some help? You know, you're just like ready to toss him, like Josh Rosen, this guy.
Well, that guy was.
But yeah, he scored 209 points, played 11 games. He was picked in like the 8th round sometime, and then finished 26th. Finished 26th.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable.
And again, you could have gotten Burrow, Jane Daniels, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. Those are all guys you could have gotten after him.
Yeah.
Heck, some of those guys you could have gotten as free agents.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Who was your bust?
Oh, my bust is none other than Dallas Cowboys star quarterback Dak Prescott. Comes in the season, scores you 164 points, played only 8 games. He was drafted in the 6th round, so a little bit higher than some of these guys. Finished 31. Injury bug got him. Season was over. Cowboys done. Lock it up. Shut it down. It's over.
Yeah. Fantasy Pros has him as the 10th QB taken on average.
Yeah.
So
they finished QB 31.
Yep. That's not good. That is not good.
Not good at all.
But yeah,
it's like when you see these. I tell you one thing. You should do this in each and every one of your leagues, right? You know, one, always take a picture of your draft board or go back and look at your draft board, right?
Yeah. If you have something like Yahoo, you can pull up your draft board for any year.
Really. Go back and look at it and look for yourself. Look to see where these guys were drafted. Look how they performed and things like this. This is all research. We're doing it and sharing it, but this is research for us in the upcoming years. You know what I mean? Some of these busts, I didn't even have to look up other than what their final point was because I know they sucked. I was like sitting there looking at these. Yeah, I know this name. Like,
I mean, but before I sat down and I started doing this, I knew
you had Kyle Pitts written.
I had Kyle Pitts written down at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, kicker. I had Dalton Kincaid at tight end.
There you go.
But Kyle Pitts was an honorable mention there. No, but I had Kyle Pitts for sure. Right. If you guys haven't seen it, I had a rant on him towards the end of the season where I just went off
when he played me. Kyle Pitts.
Freaking Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, he had a good week when you played me. Wasn't enough, but still I couldn't believe it.
I went and I dropped him in all my leagues right after that.
Really?
I mean, you saw it. You're like, you really dropped him? I go, yeah, I wasn't joking. You know, if you want to hear my rant, you can go. I got a short of it out there.
It's on YouTube.
You know, look on the YouTube page. The short's definitely there. but I knew Kyle Pitts was there. I knew Justin Tucker was there. I knew CMC and ETN. I knew Anthony Richardson. I knew Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I had to do my research a little bit to get Marvin Harrison. Because I wasn't quite sure. I couldn't remember where he was drafted at. And, to go and see, he was your 9th overall wide receiver taken, and not even close to that type of production. He should have been a wide receiver 1 for that draft position. Now, if you're doing like a dynasty league, that's different. We're talking more redraft when we're talking about these busts, okay? Because if you're in a dynasty league and you've got a majority of your team and your first round is rookies, that's different, right? But this is your redraft. Because, I mean, in a rookie draft, Marvin Harrison was probably your first wide receiver taken. Maybe Malik Neighbors. But it definitely was Harrison, right?
Both studs. Both. I mean, they get on a good team or they can start getting some action. They can do some damage.
For sure.
To be honest. But, yeah, I mean, even like this is the crazy part, but it's a lot of fun. Right. And to go back and look at these. And I went across some Facebook groups and pages and some Reddit things just to kind of see. I was like bust. And I went to there and go see. Because it's always, everybody's going to complain about something, right? Like they're complaining that, Lamar Jackson didn't score enough points or this and that, It's like, you guys got to chill out, man. Maybe he didn't score enough points, but he was still like the number 2, number 1 guy, depending on the scoring. Because Josh Allen was up there in some, and then Baker was up there in some as well. But it's like, some people are lunatics. And then some people actually bring like, ETN, he was he's a bust this year and all this kind of stuff. And, you can go pick up some names and things like that. And I was like, I just wanted to see I wanted to see what the people were saying.
Jay's in the house. What's up, Jay?
What's up, Jay? What's going on? And Corum, I don't understand how Corum or Warren would have, I mean, I don't know why people were high on Warren. He's essentially, they split the backfield, but he's a backup essentially. He's a third down kind of guy. He'll sometimes do first down in certain situations. Corum, I don't know. Someone mentioned him as well. And I was like, "What?"
I wouldn't put him down as a bust.
Yeah. Would you think Kyron wasn't going to play that much? Dude scored every week.
Here's my thing. When,
I mean,
who's the head coach out there? I'm drawing a blank.
McVay?
Yeah, McVay. When he drafts a running back, he usually ends up playing that guy that year. So, and he's always seems to be, ever since Todd Gurley, he's always been a step ahead on his running backs. Like he's not going to let that happen to him again. And so when you had Kyron had that big year that he had last year, but then he goes out there and drafts Blake Corum like that, you're like,
okay,
what does he know? Right. And so for me, it was a little bit of that. I drafted Blake Corum in a lot of leagues late, as a guy that I was looking at, like we were talking about with my draft earlier. This is a guy that I was looking for second half of the season type thing, right? Let me go ahead and draft him, get him on my roster, and hold on to him.
That's
right
the guy.
At any point. And Williams had some injury issues a little bit the year before. Never missed a lot of time, but would miss a game here and there. So you're like, okay, maybe something's going on,
which
right?
would make Corum would be an auto start,
right? But you didn't have that. Kyron was just a touchdown machine this year. And then Corum at the end of the year, he gets hurt. He's battling some injuries. So, but Corum is definitely a guy that I like in dynasty formats to hold on to, because he's gonna be cheap for you to hold on to. The salary's not gonna be that much on him. You can hold him for a cheap price, and hold on to him for the next year or two.
He's a guy that you definitely want to pick up in the next round anyway, because it's like whatever didn't happen this year, let's be honest, it's probably going to happen next year. You know what I'm saying? Like Corum's probably going to play a little bit more. If he's healthy and everything like that, and Kyron Williams, this could be the year where they kind of start splitting time a little bit. And then Corum will go take over from there.
Yeah. Jay said Mixon was a late season bust.
The
whole Texans team was
it was rough.
Kind of a bust this year. Nico was great the first half of the year, then he had that injury, and then he just wasn't the same when he came back. He really wasn't. CJ Stroud had that sophomore slump this year. Wasn't as good this year as he was last year. Ton of injuries in that wide receiver room. A wide receiver room that at the beginning of the year were like is overcrowded. Ended up being a very depleted wide receiver room with Tank Dell going down, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins missing some time.
What was bonkers is when Mixon went down. So week 2, he had a great week 1. Week 2, 8 points against Chicago, and I think that's where he got hurt. So then he misses Minnesota, misses Jacksonville, misses Buffalo. All these teams you can run on.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Comes back, though, 29, 26, 23. Slipped a little bit against the Jets and Detroit, 16 and 17 respectively. Then Dallas, 37 points, ran all over their ass.
I was going to say, didn't he score like 700 points against Dallas?
Well, and then they were like, they even walked one back. He even scored. He had an extra one in there, and they walked one. They said, no, it's holding or some crap. But then, 9 against Tennessee, 20 against Jacksonville. Then they had the bye week in week 14. Buddy, 10-8-5.
Yeah.
Pain.
Just
want to ring that bell like shame. Just pain.
Shame.
Just
for shame.
Ugh.
But yeah, so those are our bus guys. If you're watching this, the replay of this, and we didn't name any of your bus, let us know. Leave us a comment. Next week,
we'll do a short on it and tell you why you're wrong or why you're right.
Yeah, I'll let you know why Kyle Pitts was a bigger bust, and we'll go on. How about that? Next week, here's what I want to do. I want to do your all like undrafted, your sleeper, your all sleeper team for this year. And I'm going to give you some parameters on this one. Like as far as like, so say for like quarterback, we're going to say like outside of the top 16, 15 or something like that. Right. I'll set a certain parameter
Instead
for
of undrafted.
Right.
Be out of top 16.
Right. Because I mean, if you're looking in like some leagues, say you got a 10-team league and they're drafting 2 quarterbacks, 20 on, it would be your undrafted. Right. Yeah. But we'll kind of set like a limit for quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and kind of go from there. And let's go with that. Bookie top of that list for sure. Right. I think Bucky is going to be, he might be in that undrafted range, really.
I was going to see where he got drafted in our league. So I was like, I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Corum, Godfather drafted Corum in the 12th round.
Okay.
This past year.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
He's
just throwing darts
for a guy.
He's
right?
like, I just need help, man. I just need anybody. Can any of y'all run the ball?
I just need bodies. That's all I need. I mean, I can tell you right now, Baker's going to be on that list, right? Baker was a guy that in a lot of leagues went undrafted.
QB1, yeah,
right?
For us on that.
So we'll go through that next week, and then after that, that's when we start looking into next year. Let's start looking into next year. Let's start looking into some early rankings for these positions, and I think we might do like top 5 for the positions to start off with, and just kind of go from there. And then that list will kind of evolve as the offseason goes on. As free agency goes on, we'll talk about free agent signings, how we feel this is going to affect that team and that player, because you'll have some guys who are signed who's going to affect other players on that team, right? As quarterbacks, get traded or get signed in certain places, it's going to affect your wide receivers, might affect your running backs. As the draft goes on, where are these guys going? Gentry is a guy that I want to know where he ends up, because he might be a player that I'm going to look to draft, next year.
Gentry.
Ashton Gentry from Boise
State.
Yeah. That guy. I want to know.
The J, it always throws me off.
Yeah, I want to know where he ends up, because that's a guy that you're looking at
here's a guy.
Right? This is your Bijan Robinson, your Jahmyr Gibbs, your guy who's going to be drafted in the first round on a team that's going to start producing right out of the gates. Again, depending on what team he goes on, though. Right. I don't know about Skataboo. I mean,
maybe we'll see where he goes.
I think he's going to be a late. He'll definitely be. I think he'll be a later round draft pick. Maybe one of those guys that goes in like the 5th, 6th round type thing.
He's a cube.
He's
a unit.
Here's the thing that he does well that will translate to the NFL is break tackles. Right now, tackling is better in the NFL, but being able to break through tackles there's definitely something to that, right? Jay, I don't want Gentry to come to Dallas. I don't want that guy. I don't want that career wasted.
Yeah, they don't want to waste this guy's life. If he holds on long enough, he'll get overpaid, though. He'll get the biggest contract ever.
It's going to be huge.
Running back.
Right.
If you're looking out for him that way, financially, then come on, buddy.
Yeah. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to have coming for you guys. We'll do some shorts. We're going to sprinkle in some shorts. I want to start doing some shorts on some players.
Oh, yeah.
Little player profile thing. Like, hey, this is my number 1 running back for next year, and here's why I got him as my number 1 running back. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to play around with it, have some fun, this being our first off season on here, but we want to keep active and keep giving you guys content and just keep it growing. And Shout out to everyone. We hit over 300 followers on YouTube.
Boom.
Thank you guys. Do us a favor and go and tell a friend. Let's double that. Everyone tells a friend.
And if they tell 2 people or tell a friend, I don't know what it is.
Pyramid.
Like
We're turning this. That's exactly what we're doing.
We're going to Strikeout Beer in about 5 minutes if y'all want to watch the train wreck continue.
Hey, man, you've had 2 decent years and you're going to tell me the Lions don't waste talent? I mean,
tonight on Strikeout Beer, Alan's going to cry.
Jay, I might. It's been a rough half a week.
You're like, hey, everything's just sad. Like, I don't care, man. What's up? What do we got going on this week?
Oh,
like, I don't want to live in that shit world. But yeah, let's go. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hey, dude, we're talking about now. Okay. Why we got to bring up the past?
Megatron. Oh
Bring
my
up the
God.
past.
I used to love him.
Bring up the past. You know, the Cowboys wasted the greatest quarterback ever to play.
He was one of my favorite.
Tony Romo.
He was one of my favorite fantasy players.
Oh, dude, Megatron was great. Yeah, I kid. It's all right. I could take it. I can handle it. I'm a big boy. I got a diaper on today, so we're good. But hey, guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you guys. If you have a chance to, we'll be over here on Strikeout Beer here in about
4 minutes.
4-ish. 10. We're going to be late.
Yeah,
we're not starting on the nose. We're not starting on the
Antonio Romero. For some reason, I heard accordions in the background when he said it like that.
But hey, guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. As always, I'm Alan.
Marty.
Talk to you later. Deuces.